You know what I didn't realize? And maybe I shouldn't be shocked, but I am shocked, but I'm annoyed. But shocked and annoyed. Or whatever. That's wrong. I don't whatever. I really wish the new ARM PCs were USB-C only for charging. They still come with the blade connector.
Oh, you mean the Surface ones? Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I know you can charge with USB-C on these things, but it feels like the blade is, I mean...
So it's hard to know exactly what's going on with this thing. I think it's called Surface Connect, right? The magnetic blade thing. So the benefit of it is that, as with MagSafe on the Macs, it frees up the USB ports for other things if you need that. I don't know if it's a downside, but it's weird. Like, you get this proprietary thing. It's not clear what it is. Like, it must be, well, I say that. Actually, I was going to say it must be, it's got to be coming off a USB bus, right? It has to be. Like, it's not like Microsoft makes proprietary motherboards or something. Well, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I agree with you. And there's been no word over the years about whether the capacity of this thing has, updated.
Yeah.
Like, is it better? Is the charging faster? You don't really hear about stuff like that.
No, it just, and there's going to be blade defenders, whatever. You're fine. I have a whole bunch of these things, whatever. But like, I'm in this world of where we want one connector to rule them all, and we know it's going to be USB-C. We know that that's the future. I don't think anyone's arguing
it's the present. I mean, this was the argument several years ago when Microsoft wouldn't adopt Thunderbolt, whatever, probably 3 at the time, which was delivered over USB-C, right? Like, the good news is it does have USB-C. And
it does.
I don't know about the what do you call it? The Pro off the top of my head, but the laptop has 2 of them and a full-size USB-A. I mean, that used to be a huge problem with Surface laptop. That's much better.
I don't know. Just somebody can make a USB-C with magnets. That would be great, and then it would solve all the problems.
Yeah, I don't really have that. I don't know.
Whatever.
Look, I'm as clumsy as they get, and I've never kicked a laptop off the table by tripping over the cable. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. Obviously, it does. But the other thing is, Anker in particular makes really good small power delivery chargers that do everything right. So you can get like a little 65 or 100-watt thing, 2 ports, 3 ports, whatever. Throw it in your bag. It will charge everything you have, including the Surface. I hear you. Most people who buy this thing are going to have a charger that already works with it too, right?
They have a USB-C charger. They already have one too. So it's more so, and someone's going to write in like, well, it's great on my desk. I'm very specifically talking about when I travel. Like when I just went to Punta Cana last week. Not having to worry about taking a service charger because of the speed of charging and everything else.
So actually, to the earlier point, you remember there probably a couple of generations of docks that were blade. In fact, many generations. They used to have the ones for Pro, remember, that would kind of slap onto it. But just like the standalone docks. Their current dock is, if I'm not mistaken, a Thunderbolt dock, so it's USB-C, right? So it bypasses that thing. I mean, so it is USB, right? It is some form of USB. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Nobody wants a dock that only works with one kind of computer, you know?
I don't want this to like rain on what is perceived to be so far like a relatively positive release for the company, minus the whole recall thing. But from a hardware perspective,
recall thing. Oh, what happened?
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, not important. Okay.
But like the benchmarks look good from what people are saying. Like everything else.
Yeah. One of the Mac publications, like 9to5 Mac, one of those guys, highlighted something that is relevant to this discussion, and I don't mean to raise it because this is somewhat negative, but single core, multi-core performance, plus or minus with the M3 Pros, whatever. But the Qualcomm Snapdragon X chips actually consume more power than the M3s. So I'm not remembering the figures off the top of my head. It kind of doesn't matter. They're not in Intel AMD territory. They are much more efficient, obviously, than the x86 stuff, but the Apple Silicon stuff still has retained a kind of an efficiency advantage.
That shouldn't really surprise anybody, though.
Yeah, well, it's retroactively, I will say they're correct. By the way, I talked. Ryan Trout had mentioned this to me when we were in Seattle, and it's not a big deal. This falls into that category of you need to get over this notion that the Snapdragon thing has to beat Apple across the board in every single category, right?
Right.
The point here is that it needs to be competitive. No one is going to choose a Mac because of a benchmark that's a little bit better on one or the other, or an efficiency rating that's a little bit, that's not how people make decisions. So when you go the PC route, you can subdivide things down, and this is still a much, it's still much more efficient, et cetera, than Intel, AMD, whatever. It's in the ballpark. And I think the fact that we're in the ballpark, we're in the conversation, like it's competitive. And that to me is a major accomplishment. But it is notable that if you go back and look, Snapdragon never did talk about the efficiency stuff versus M3 or whatever. There were a lot of comparisons there, but it was always about performance and multi-core, single core, whatever, right? So, yeah, just good to know. That's all. Not a big deal.
Yeah, yeah. The power efficiency that's a metric that I don't think Microsoft would ever win. Just because, right? They're not. Apple is completely vertically integrated, right? They're one step away from being, mining their own silicone at the end of the day.
Silicone?
So, whatever.
That's a different market, Brad.
First, and then they're going to go make chips.
I have all these kind of half-started articles that are sitting in my to-do folder, and among them is something I probably wrote weeks ago, a month or more ago, that I went back and looked at old Apple kind of keynote events at first around the iPad, because I was thinking about the iPad Pro stuff. But I came across one where they were in the process of switching to Intel, Apple was, from PowerPC, right? And they were either partway through it, or I bet they were only partway through it. But the conversation, and you kind of forget this stuff. You've heard the term like performance per watt, right? This is something Apple's been very big on in the Apple Silicon era, right? That they can say, and Snapdragon or Qualcomm talks about that now. They were talking about the performance per watt advantages of Intel over PowerPC. I had completely zoned on this. Like, it didn't register maybe at the time because it was such a weird concept back then, or I just forgot. I don't know, who knows, but it's very interesting that this was like a big deal for Apple, that one of the advantages of Intel, which, in their view eventually kind of betrayed it, was that it was much more efficient than whatever Motorola or IBM, processors they might have been using before that. So, it's a thing. I mean, it is
a thing. Yeah,
it's a thing. It helps with, uptime, and it's not going to impact your electric bill all that much. But I mean, it's going to, when you're in battery life, it's,
when you're unplugged and you're trying to get stuff done, that's where it impacts you.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I thought today was Thursday, and it's not, which is a problem.
Every day this week has felt like Monday. This is just a week of Mondays, Yeah,
I'll be curious to see if any more sort of reorgs come out. There's been a small sort of shakeup, right, in Xbox. Another marketing guy left, and so now they're putting marketing a little lower down in the org next to the games, and curious to see what else happens.
I don't know what happened to Xbox. It's like spent a year and a half trying to get this Activision thing going. They were like the underdog. It was never going to work. And then they did it. And then we've just been crapping on them ever since. Right? I mean, there's something weird going on there. I on the one hand, I respect the fact that it's a giant org to have to, bring in-house and figure that stuff out. We've talked about how they could have handled this stuff differently, but I sit here as a gamer, as someone who pays for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, and I'm still like, where are the freaking games on Game Pass? What's going on here? They just had this great showcase that went wonderfully, but did I miss something? They weren't really talking about, oh, and by the way, we're also bringing this huge stable of games we have to Game Pass. I don't